add value to your business, or do you want to just be this administrative person?
And often, if you look at your talent team and the caliber of talent in your company, they correlate.
You could hire the best person for the job if they were in your candidate pool.
All these individual employees, one by one, together, their voices all come together to articulate the culture of the company.
This is
Hiring on all cylinders.
Hello, podcast land. Rob Stevenson here once more for Hiring on All Cylinders, and I am again coming to you from Fidelity HQ in Boston, Massachusetts, where I am posted up as the podcast of record for our friends at Future Workplace. And joining me right now is Kevin Mulcahy. He is one of the partners over at Future Workplace, and he has done a tremendous amount of research and is a co-author along with a friend of the show, Gene Meister, on this amazing book, The Future Workplace Experience. Kevin, thank you so much for being here.
Excellent, Rob. Thank you for inviting me on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. And the book, I haven't read all of it yet, but I've looked through several different parts, and I was thrilled to see that there's a huge chunk in there about recruiting, as opposed to just like a giant HR umbrella that Future Workplace is covers. So, what are kind of the big trends and big pieces of recruitment that you've worked into the book?
Sure. Well, as we scan the workplace of today and of the future, we'll see that everything we essentially take for granted about working is shifting. What we expect from our work, where we work, how we work. And I think one of the big elements, and we've devoted about a third of the Future Workplace Experience book to how technology transforms the workplace. And within that, we consider technology as an enabler or a disruptor. We consider how technology can be used to embrace on-demand learning. But most importantly, we can think, how can you use technology to build a data-driven recruiting ecosystem?
So how can you?
Well, there's a few different ways.
Obvious follow-up question.
So there are a few different ways. One is, and these are with all my suggestions here, would be additive to any current recruiting strategy that a company may have. So the first one is really about being a lot more intentional on building an employer brand. And if you want to get a sense of what your employer brand is, ask any of your employees in 30 seconds or less, sell me on, or sell a friend on why they should join our organization.
Right. And if they can't answer that, then the answer is you don't have an employer brand, right?
If they can't answer that, you don't have an employer brand. If they can answer that, that is what the internal brand is saying. That is how they're branding out.
Right.
And so you have to establish, is that the brand? This is what your current employees are saying about the company. So what the bigger question is, what is your brand in the minds of the potential candidates? And I think it's very important in recruiting to understand that our brand as a recruiter and as an employer is very different from our brand as a supplier of the products that we sell.
Right, a consumer brand, yeah.
Absolutely. The gun, steel, tobacco, alcohol industry, many people would have concerns about many of those products, but some of these companies have some fantastic employment policies and are just great places to work for. So as an employer, you have to think about what is it that you're offering to employees, and that has to be different than what you're offering to consumers. And the implication there being that you need to partner with your marketing department to say, how do we brand as an employer,
right? And
make sure that the conversation is, what are you going to experience from being employed at our company?
Definitely.
So we got a few other. So that's one, is building the employer brand. The second one is companies are moving a lot more towards the direction of getting earlier insights into their candidates, and sure, there's a number of traditional aptitude tests, etc. But now we're seeing a lot more experiential testing of employees, giving them an assignment and seeing how they do with them is one form. Even a simpler form of, great, I've read your resume, how about you send me a 1-minute video summarizing what you think are your biggest accomplishments in your career to date is another form. And so what we're seeing is this idea of testing differently pre-employment in a more experiential or more visual or more interactive way, rather than the traditional recruiting process, which it really begins from when we receive those 2 pieces of magic paper in our inboxes.
Right.
So that's the second one.
So the resume, it's not dead. You have to have it, but you have to go much deeper in terms of evaluating candidates, obviously.
There's got to be multimedia. My resume does not just convey itself, in my experience, does not just convey itself on the flat form of the paper. Let me show you types of projects I can do, much like designers do with a project portfolio, or let me show you who I am by some 1-minute video synopsis of me explaining and summarizing what my experiences are, so I can convey the passion that I have for for the field that I've chosen, and for you, the company that I'm trying to woo to have you join me.
Right, because what are recruiters actually looking for in a resume? They're like, okay, where have you worked? What have you done in the last few years? Like, I can sum that up speaking in 60 seconds. I don't need to spend all this time putting together a document and then like perfectly manicuring it so that it fits, and then to have a recruiter look at it for it's the average time spent looking at a resume is something hilariously small, right? It's like 8 seconds
and getting smaller.
Right
now, if it's 8 seconds, it's going to go down to 3 seconds. So here's what I think recruiters want to see is, one is, what is the quality of the candidate? Essentially, how good are you at meeting spec?
Right.
And even if we just think about the fast food industry, do you really need to have a typo-free, beautifully designed Word resume to operate a cash register? No.
Right.
But if you come across as a friendly personality on video, I think you may make a great frontline employee at the company. So sometimes the process by which we put candidates through does not actually reflect or have any relevance to the skills that we actually are asking them to do for us on the job.
Exactly.
So one is quality of the candidate, right, and spec. And the second one, what we're seeing is in more sophisticated recruiting, a more proactive approach towards sourcing. So I always want to think about quality. And now as sites like LinkedIn expose people's credentials, I can sort of assess remotely, proactively, who might be the types of people with a certain type of experience and pre-qualify them. And then secondly, I want to look at the sense of affinity that those candidates have for the company. By affinity, I mean, do they follow our company or companies like us on LinkedIn? Or is this candidate already linked in to people at our company? Because the likelihood, there's 2 sides to recruiting. One is the candidates serving themselves up to be evaluated. And then secondly, once they're made an offer, those candidates evaluating whether they want to take that offer. And our research indicates that candidates who already know somebody or have some connection at a company have a much greater likelihood of accepting a job offer than if they actually don't know anyone or have no connection at all or no affinity to the company. So smart recruiters are trying to assess in advance and prioritizing. Let's interview the candidates who have the greatest affinity and connection to the company first, because they're the ones that are most likely to complete the process all the way through to actually accepting our offers.
Right. It seems another increasing trend we're seeing is this proliferation of the gig economy. So that is part-time workers, freelance workers. It's a part of lots of company strategies. And as far as I can tell, I'm not sure if recruiters are actively working into their process or it's sort of just kind of organically happened. What's your take on that?
Okay. Rob, the gig economy is huge. We're seeing now up to 1/3 of the American workforce are participating in the gig economy. Sometimes their employers may not be aware that their employees are participating in the gig economy. So the flip side is really for recruiters in our recruiting initiatives. The question to pose for ourselves is, how can we take advantage of talented and relevantly qualified independent workers? That's the term we use for the participants in the gig economy.
Right.
But these independent workers who for their own reasons do not seek a full-time role. And the workforce of the future will certainly not be all full-time employees. On one side, companies seek greater flexibility with having a more flexible, or somebody used the term yesterday in this session, liquid workforce.
Interesting.
It wasn't really interesting. I thought it was a great analogy, right? It gets that sense of flow. Sometimes I need you, sometimes I don't. And on the balancing side, individuals actually seek more choice. And the demographics, the combination of demographics of people who essentially are reprioritizing the role of work in their life differently, plus the emergence of technology platforms, allow now for companies to think about a better matching system between assignments and jobs that they need done in their companies, and workers that are willing to come in and work part-time as part of the gig economy. And I think that's a great opportunity for any recruiter to essentially think carefully about how to tap in to that desire for flexibility and pick up the best and brightest, but not necessarily the longest working employees.
Right. Could it also inform just their general philosophy insofar as how they treat their employees? So if flexibility is the reason for the growth of the gig economy, should companies say, look, you can work from home, you can come in at odd hours, you can have maternity and paternity leave, you can take unlimited time off, you can, like, within reason? Is there going to be sort of a normalization? Will companies lash back and become more flexible, or just say, okay, we'll just hire a liquid workforce?
No, I think lashback would be a strong term. I think companies are bending and modifying to recognize that the driver of the gig economy, why people choose to work in the gig economy. Let's be frank, here in Massachusetts, unemployment rate is in the 4% range. So pretty much people who want full-time work can get full-time work, yet here in Massachusetts, there's a tremendous amount of people choosing, as you pointed out, the flexibility of working, of a work situation. So what companies are doing is bending to cater more to that desire for flexibility and choice for employees, and these choices are coming up in work the hours when you want to work. We're not dictating shifts. Much more flexibility on time off policies. On, we don't care if it was for this particular use or that particular use, this is your allocation of time off.
Right.
And sometimes even lifting the budgets for those times off. And so we are seeing a lot more, or working remotely versus getting the work done at the office, a lot more flexibility there, especially as a younger generation of managers starts moving into more senior management roles.
Definitely. Last question for you, Kevin. What is one thing recruiters can do to strengthen their recruiting process right away?
I think a really high impact action is look at your referral process. Do you have an employee referral process? And I don't mean a line posted on your website that says for every referral who is, and 10 conditions, terms and conditions apply.
Right, yeah.
And only then, if they turn out to be the best superstar in the company, will you get your bonus. If you have a referral process, then pay for by referral, and rely on your internal system to decide the quality of those referrals. Secondly, have it be very systematic, not just, oh, we have an open vacancy, we need some referrals now. Get that pipeline of referrals, whether you have the vacancy or not, because that is
right.
a pipeline of referrals. And thirdly, expand out who you're getting referrals from. We often rely on immediate manager referrals, open up the referrals to all employees, and also to former employees. We've found in our research that former employees were very much an untapped resource when it came to high-quality referrals.
I love it. And then also, you say it's not enough to just say that you have the employee referral program. You have to educate your team that it exists. And we've seen it work also with monetary rewards at every stage of the funnel. So say, all right, phone screen, that's $50. On-site, $100. Like third on-site, $500. And then the full-time hire is, $2,500 or $5,000 or whatever it is, depending on the role. So yeah, not just saying, like, shrugging and saying we have this because we're supposed to. Right, actually, take the time, make the investment to have it be a fully developed program.
And I think also and I know you were using an example there, Rob, but you linked it all to monetary reward, and not all reward has to be monetary. I think sometimes there's recognition, and sometimes monetary reward can be a substitute for a lack of willingness to provide other recognition.
Sure,
so
yeah.
even recognizing, Rob, congratulations, you've referred 10 people to the firm. I'm just acknowledging you on stage and showing that you have contributed to helping build the pool talent at this firm. And when we think about recruiting, I think one of our biggest mistakes is we think that that's the job of recruiting only is applicable to recruiters. It should be the job of everybody in the company to be on the lookout for talent, and recruiting should be written into everybody's job description. That would be the one last radical thought I'd leave you with, is what if at the bottom of everybody's job description is recruit talent for the company? How would that change your recruiting energy, and how would that change your referral process?
I love that. Recruiting definitely takes a village, and I would love to see organizations get serious about that. Kevin, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for joining me.
Great. Thank you for hosting from our event here in Boston. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Pleasure is all mine. Thanks again, Kevin.